say you can't say anymore.
On Bourbon Street or not. But
Corinthians said this is oil. It's probably big. What is bigger than oil? This thing is diamonds. Like, it's like so massive.
Not gonna do this with y'all. Y'all not gonna. This is cyberbullying, right? What's up, man?
What's going on, bro? How you doing?
I can't complain. Can't complain at all. It's Thursday.
Man, it's Thursday. It's Thursday. You know, feel like we've been away for a while. We gotta get back in the lab.
Yeah, man. We took a little hiatus, but you know, we some busy brothers. So
yeah. Well, that's true. Man, true. How you been doing, man?
I can't complain, man. I can't complain at all. I could complain, Corinthian, but I'm not going to.
Man, no one listening, no way.
You are definitely right about that. I'm just happy to be back. A lot of home stuff. My hair is out currently, so if y'all see me sweating, I got a rag.
You gotta, man. See, look, it be things like that that make you appreciate, the comforts that you have in your home. When stuff go out, you realize what you took for granted.
Yeah, Corinthian, we can really take life for granted, man. We can take getting up in the morning for granted. We can take walking for granted, seeing, hearing, or just being able to go, public transportation, things like that. We take a lot of stuff for granted, Corinthian.
Yeah, man, you're so true, man. So I take this opportunity, be thankful, Lord. I'm so thankful to be here, today. Kevin Ollie, he used to be the coach for UConn. They won a national championship, played in the NBA for a number of years. Man, he has a video where he talking to some future basketball players, and he tells them, man, one of the most underrated blessings in life is leaving out your house and returning home safely. And man, when he said that, I was like, man, that is so powerful, because we get up and go expecting to come home, but don't, that's a blessing being able to come home safe and sound, because everybody leave out their door.
Right there.
Don't. So
tomorrow is not promised, man.
Yeah.
So we got to be ready. Like in this life, when we meet our maker, we have to be ready when it's our time, because I think the scriptures talk, it's appointed to man once to die, and then after that, so we have to be ready, when we leave this earth. And the thing is, you never know. One of my classmates, he just posted a video on Facebook, and he was driving, and you know how somebody driving a truck, they might be carrying a little something. Did that just ring?
Man, yeah, you went away for a little bit, but now I can see you back home.
Man, my phone was ringing.
Okay, yeah, you went off temporarily. It's just a two-man show, so just give me a heads up if you want.
Well, Chris, you know how it's a little flatbed that you can put on the back of your truck or your car, and to carry your lawnmowers or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, he was driving, and one of those got loose and ran into he smashed into it, man.
Wow.
And the pictures look really, really bad, but he posted that he walked away without any damage, Corinthian, to his body. He walked away unharmed. So,
wow,
that's just a blessing. But he was just driving. It was just a normal day driving, and then literally he has the dash cam footage or whatever, and it just ran smack into him, man. It was crazy.
Man, you know how they talk about, angels watching over you.
Yeah.
And to walk away from something like that unscathed,
Yeah.
with activity of all your limbs and not missing something, not something punctured. Folk just don't know, because that's not the case for everybody. If that unhitches at the right angle, that could come straight through the windshield at neck level.
Yeah.
And then what you gonna do?
Yeah.
So
Brandon, I'm sorry. If you're just tuning in, welcome to Kicking It with the Kellys. We're back on Thursday night. We are excited to be back. Corinthian had some functions last week. I was out of town last week. Corinthian, I took the boys to another camp, Fellowship Christian Athletes, and Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and about 400 campers. We spent the whole week. The boys attended Power Camp. I facilitated basketball. Kia says she's squinting. Kia doesn't like our format with this the squares there. It looks great on YouTube.
Oh, look. Well,
so you really don't like it.
Kia might have on her ring light as well. That might be another reason why she can't really see.
Yeah, I hope not. It looks great on YouTube to me, but I don't know. We might dibble and dabble with other formats. But I was liking it. I didn't have a problem.
Let me see. I'm gonna do this just for a kid. Make sure we didn't zoomed in and
it looks the same over here. Okay, you know what, kid? She's on platform. Well, we got it. Well, thanks, Corinthian. We zoomed in. Listen, I'm not gonna.
That's the danger of a live show. You got people that
Hey, Corinthian, I want to give a shout out to our good friend Amber Ivy. She's a fellow Monarch alum, ODU alum, also fellow board member. We both serve on the Old Dominion University Alumni Board. We have our retreat coming up in next week or in 2 weeks. So that's going to be great. But I want to give her a shout out. AI meets AI.
Wow.
And other places. I got mine. AI, obviously, Amber Ivy meets AI, and she's talking about that artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Corinthian is a great book, and I'm proud of you, girl. You keep doing your thing. Amber, I'm gonna tell you a little. Amber was my she was
RA.
She was an RA in the dorm when I lived in Whitehurst. So she was a year ahead of me. And we became good friends, man. And she's been rocking with us. We had her on the show, and that was a powerful episode.
Man, Amber dropped so much knowledge about data, artificial intelligence, what's happening next. Talked about stocks and how data is the new oil. Like how important that information is, harnessing that information and really using it. When you think of data from a business standpoint, that's what drives decision making. Like the more data, the more inputs, the more information they get from us about what we watching, what we like, what we click on, that's data. And then they target messaging to you. So think about, when we be sitting at the house and like, man, I really like them shoes, and we click like on something.
Yeah.
The next episodes or the next things we're gonna see is stuff that look just like what we like. Right.
For a long time before I understood what this AI stuff was. I thought they was tapping our lines. Like I was like, how we were just talking about this. How did they know?
Yeah.
And so you watch what you say over the phone. Just telling you that.
Yeah. Well, Arthur, don't think they doing it. I mean, they are like they if it has a microphone and it got a receiver and a headset, it could be listening. So just be I mean,
and they tell you don't obviously if you have a laptop, don't cover up your little camera, do this little slide action.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they could be watching. They could be watching. Yeah, but shout out to Amber. Congratulations. We know Black authors, Black excellence, man. That's so dope.
Isn't that a wonderful thing?
That is so cool, man. And I love the fact that you're targeting young people, getting them exposed early. That is so cool.
So yeah, go ahead and get it. If you have a young daughter or sons,
Yep.
cop this book, AI Meets AI. You can get. I got mine from Amazon. I believe there's also an audio recording of it as well. I don't know if you have to purchase the book to get that, but yeah, check out Amber Ivy. Just look her up. She's famous, so
yeah. No, we're gonna get the autograph. Amber, I want the autograph version of the book. But that's the.
All right, so last week we couldn't get on. You had a very important event that I would like you to share with the viewing audience. Something that y'all are doing in Kansas is pretty big. So if you're in that Midwestern region, you might want to check out what they're doing out there.
Man, that's a great segue for me, Arthur. So last Thursday, we had the opportunity to have our grand 2023 gathering, and beautiful event. We had it at the Wichita Art Museum here in Wichita, Kansas. But the purpose of the gathering is to know who people are, what people do, and what we can do together in the Black community. So at this event, we had over 150 folks that came out from all different types of industries, backgrounds, working professionals from young to old. We categorize folks as students, new professionals, meaning they working in their career for 0 to 5 years, to experienced professionals, which is folks that have been in the game or in their field for 6 to 20 years. We have mature professionals, folks that have been working in an arena for 20 years plus. And then we have some OGs or retirees. So for example, one of our attendees, she's the retired superintendent of Wichita Public Schools. Wichita Public Schools is the largest school district in the state of Kansas. And the awesome retired superintendent happens to be a phenomenal pillar in this community, Dr. Alicia Thompson. She just retired this year. So, but just to name, a few of the different influencers that we've been having attend these gatherings. And again, the whole purpose is to create a space and atmosphere for folks to collaborate. We think community over competition. So I read a quote on Facebook that I loved. It's no competition at the top. Everybody at the top is collaborating. And I love that. That's what I want us to be doing, like collaborating. How can I help your initiative? How can you help me? That's collaboration. And it makes it so cool when it's people that look like you. So thanks for that little segue. More stuff to come, but we were very pleased. And the grand finale that we had, we got to launch our very own gathering website. Our website was sponsored by an awesome community partner. They paid for it outright to help us to increase what we're trying to do in the community and as a vehicle to help connect people efficiently. So what I'm going to do a little later, I'm going to drop that in the chat. I'd love for folks to check it out and give us their feedback. But the awesome designer, the millennial Black professor, happens to be my lovely wife, Tasha, Dr. Tasha Ely Kelly. So we're so excited she helped us with this initiative.
All right, that's amazing. I guess you know, Dorothy is not the only one doing big things in Kansas.
Hey, Kansas got some stuff going on, man.
Hey, they trying to get me to come out there, but I often say I'm not clicking my heels twice. And but thank you for so much for sharing that the link. Go check it out. Tell us what you think. They would love to hear your feedback about the website, and also if you have want to pick their brains, they have wonderful insight about what you can do in your community and how you can help your community out as well. Corinthian, there's been a lot that's happened since we've talked, man. We've had some major holidays. We had Juneteenth, and actually, I am wearing a Juneteenth bracelet that the boys got, and they gave me one. They went to a Juneteenth function in Norfolk, and they got some bracelets, and I'm wearing mine religiously now because they're pretty cool. But I've been seeing a lot of posts. One in particular, there was a post lady, you know, what she thought about Juneteenth, a white lady, and she just went on. I think it's a sham, and just things like that. The ignorance and arrogance of what she was saying. Excuse me, everybody. Was just a little mind blowing. Nothing was factual, and she really didn't know what Juneteenth was.
Yeah. And
I think that we, just as a Black culture, we have to continue to really give the messaging of what Juneteenth really means, because it actually means a whole lot.
Yeah.
That's why I don't want to get, you know, brushed under the rug. It's not a holiday because it's just a holiday. It has a deep meaning, and it really means something. And I think people have to understand what Juneteenth really means. So
yeah, and education is so important. Like, this is why history has to be taught. It can't be revised. It can't be altered to make more people comfortable. History has to be taught in its raw, real form. That way, you don't repeat the same mistakes that you made in the past. See, if we whitewash it, so to speak, and don't teach true history, over time, you'll have people that forget what the true meaning was. Juneteenth is celebrated, especially in our community. It needs to be, because emancipation happened in 1863, right? Juneteenth, that messaging didn't get down to slaves in Galveston, Texas until 2 years later. Arthur, 2 years is a long time. Right. So the celebration that came after that good news traveled down to those folks is why Juneteenth is relevant. Now, when we was coming up, Arthur, where was Juneteenth celebrated? Did we learn about Juneteenth in school?
No, we did not.
So, you know, when I think of things like that, I think about how important curriculum is. Well, who decides what goes on the curriculum? So I'm gonna bring this back to why it's important for those that know. They have to now think about, well, how can I influence things like the school board? Because somebody needs to be checking to make sure whole lessons is getting missed out. You know, what makes this story more important than that story? How are people that look like me reflected in the story or reflected in these books? I would even argue that some people, especially in our community, kind of, you know, school starts to become less important to us because we don't see us reflected in the books. So you know, I can't necessarily blame folks that when I hear about George Washington and I hear about Thomas Jefferson, because we from Virginia, all these folks were from Virginia. We heard about Jamestown and all that kind of stuff. But when do I start seeing me, people that look like me, and hear about people that look like me and their contributions to this place that we call America? Because we have made some significant contributions into progress in terms of what we have done. But I go back to who teaches you this. Someone has to teach you this.
Yeah.
And I would say if we're not getting it in the school, well, where are we getting it?
Where are we getting from?
Yeah.
No, great points, Corinthian. And the quote is, history is best qualified to reward all research. So, you know, we can't erase it.
Yeah.
Can't erase history. If it happened, you know, let us research it to see what really went down. And when you really research the history of things, you see that Juneteenth is important. You see that we're going to get into this. Hopefully, you see that, you know, slaves worked and did not get paid. And
so, Arthur, man, it's even deeper than that, man.
Yeah.
See, you have to put history in context to make it relevant and really folks to get it.
Yeah.
Arthur, me and you work.
Oh, that's what I said. Wow, I know where you're about to go because I said this to somebody yesterday.
So, Arthur, me and you work a job, a 9-to-5 job, so to speak.
Yeah.
Arthur, can you imagine going 1 week of going to that job and putting in hard work, 40 hours a week, and they say, thank you for that work, but you're not getting paid for that? Can you imagine doing that for 1 week?
No.
Now, all right, think about a month. Think about 6 months. Think about a year of work. You just going in, you got to clock in.
Yeah.
You still got to produce.
Yeah.
But none of that's going to be reflected in your check. Imagine just 1 year of that. Right?
Yeah.
So we looking at a perspective as the worker. Now, imagine if you the employer and you got 10 people that show up to you one day. Actually, you weren't paying them ever, but so you didn't have to pay them, but they still have to produce for you, right?
Yeah.
So imagine if I have 10 people that work for me that come and clock in a traditional work week, a 40-hour work week for a year for me, and I don't have to pay them any money. Imagine how much just in 1 year I can amass.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now times that by 270 some years.
Yeah.
So when you start teaching history in that kind of context, I mean, I don't know anybody that's going to even go to the let's put it in terms that young people can understand. Imagine if they just was showing up to school every day and had to do a whole lot of homework, but they won't go get no grade for it. Like the grade, you ain't gonna see no grade. You just coming and working real hard, and you ain't gonna get no grade for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
How long you think the kids gonna keep showing up to the school?
Oh no, they're not gonna show. No, Corinthian, listen. Oh, Corinthian, you speaking because now. So what? We in it now. We gonna have to now go swimming. Corinthian,
Okay.
you can't put the cart before the horse.
Okay.
And I'm gonna say this, Corinthian. I'm gonna tell you to just drive in a straight line to, and let's just say 25 miles to get to my house. You get there. All right, you get there. You drive the 25 miles, you leave, you drive your 25 miles, you get to my house. But now, let me pull up the video camera.
Mm.
All right. On your way to my house, you ran through 5 red lights.
Mm-hmm.
You knocked over a trash can. You hit a car. You hit somebody.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And killed them.
Yeah.
But you still got to my house.
Yep.
Present day.
Mm-hmm.
Corinthian. See, if we don't talk about all the stuff that happened on your way to my house.
Yeah.
So this is what I think and I fear that most people that I would say don't look like us,
mm-hmm.
they want to erase how they got to
your
house.
Yes. Yeah, Arthur, that's so yeah. Yes.
On the way, they broke every moral law, code. They kept going, hit and run, everything.
Yes.
And they still showed up on time, or
Yep.
they showed up and they ready to go. But then when you call them to carpet about it, they will say, well, that was in the past.
Yeah.
And I'll say, but wait. You can't do that.
Tell that to, so you said it was a hit and run,
Yeah.
that you killed somebody. So tell that to that person's family that happened in the past. You altered that whole family's
Yes.
life, right? They didn't forget that.
No.
So like, you can't, when you've aggrieved someone or when you've harmed someone,
Yeah.
you can't tell them get over it and just forget.
Yeah.
I mean, that you just can't, like you just can't. That's not for you to
Right.
tell someone what their grief period, recovery period is. No.
Oh, Corinthian, and you said, and you brought up a great point as far as we went to work and we didn't get paid a week. Corinthian, even the scriptures talking about payment, the scriptures even say the wages of sin is death. So the pay for sin is death. So there has to be some wages somewhere. There has to be some payment somewhere in everything.
Yeah.
And so let's just talk about this reparation. I talked to a close friend or close relative,
yeah.
And I'm sorry if you're just tuning in. Welcome to Kicking with the Kellys. We're talking. We haven't been on in 2 weeks, and Corinthian got me stirred up. And we're talking about reparations right now.
Mm-hmm.
Repayment for going to work and not getting paid for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the argument is, how do you control reparations? Who does the money go to?
Mm-hmm.
2, the second argument is, how can you make this 6-year-old Caucasian boy pay for the sins of their forefathers?
Mm-hmm.
That's argument number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3, I have one more. Have you heard of the $5 Indian?
I haven't heard that term.
Okay, it's a statement that I just came across where obviously, you know, Christopher Columbus came over here saying he discovered America, but there were already Indians here. The Pilgrims came over here eating Thanksgiving with the Indians, but then end up duping them, tricking them, taking their land. Pretty much simple. That's what happened, right? Well, obviously, reservations and stuff like that, you know, to repay Indians, all right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people showed up in line. People, white people, everything, pretty much saying that they should be able to get something too. So the argument is, how can you control who gets what if you're giving out reparations? And so correct, let's just go ahead on and dive in right now. Why are reparations so important does that principle carry over into relationships, friendship, and marriages? And I'm guessing
she's talking about the car analogy.
The car analogy.
No, yeah. Like when she done damage in the past, how can you make someone skip over what happened? You hit 5 people, ran 5 red lights. So we'll hold that thought.
I would hold that thought. Yeah. Great.
Hold that thought. So before I start, I'll ask this question. If a debt is owed, does it get forgiven once a generation died? Once the debtor, the person that owes debt in American society, once a person expires or dies out, does his debt die with them, or does it get passed on to the next generation?
I don't know that answer. Now it looks like from some things that I can think, as far as it being a person that was a spouse or a person with children, I think it does get passed down. I think, but let's do some research on that.
Yep. So using that logic, then until the debt is settled, there is no one exempt from who owes. So I'll start with this, right? I'll start with this statement. I wouldn't even call it reparations. If this country is set up on a principle of justice, then instead of calling it reparations, it's justice that has been long overdue. So I would submit that there is no to right the wrongs, the original sin of this country, in my opinion, which is slavery, chattel slavery, which now there were indentured servants in other cultures in society, meaning that there was a debt owed. You had to work for those folks until for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. That's how you were paid that debt. And then you were released, right? Did that happen to our forefathers and our ancestors? Did they, first of all, but take it even a step back, okay? These were folks that were kidnapped. They were taken from their home country, countries that they had built, civilized societies. And I don't even like the term slave. These were doctors. These were farmers. These were established people that had a community, a culture, that were taken from their land, brought by boat across an ocean in chains, quartered so tightly, packed so tightly that there are accounts that because of the smell, the stench, Arthur, if you traveling by boat back in the 17th century, right? You got to think, if you chain people together and are forcing people from their homeland, you're doing stuff by force.
Right.
Are you going to do the humane thing and say, hey, every so often we're going to take a bathroom break and I'm going to unchain you and let you use the bathroom? Would you do that?
No.
So that means that the folks, when they were stuck there, they were stuck there. So if you stuck there for hours, you use the bathroom on yourself, you throw up. I think about the disease, the stench that could happen just off of your smell. I read in some, I'm talking about this is after I got out of school, some accounts where the smell of the slave ship, you could smell it from miles on, like you could follow the ship based off the smell. And then there were accounts that the sharks would follow these ships, right? Because people are going to get sick and die off. And what do you do when that body starts to rot and decay?
Yeah.
I mean, you throw it off the ship.
Corinthian, even when they had to lighten the load on the ship, if there was storms, I mean, they would keep everybody chained and just, one go, and then it pulls the rest. Correct. And that brings me to another point. Everybody needs to go to the African American Museum to see the representation of the chattel slavery that Corinthian is talking about. And I think, because it has been so whitewashed, the story hasn't really been told on the mainstream as it should. And I think since it happened so long ago, I think, people from any other race are so far removed from it, or they want to be so far removed from it. But Corinthian, our grandfathers picked cotton. So like, we're not so far removed from this as you think.
Yes.
And if you are if you're an African American in this country, you are a product of slavery. You have to understand that your people came over here in ships. We're not talking about Africans that come over here and take a citizenship test.
Yeah.
We're not talking about people that came through the Statue of Liberty, immigrants or something like that came over here voluntarily. We're not talking about that. We are talking about people that were forced to come here. And I think that a lot of people don't understand all the ramifications of, all that happened, but then Emancipation Proclamation happens. Now we're free. Okay, you're free. Go be free. But if you go be free, how do you survive? Who's going to hire me? Like, and then you still, even still after that, you have the Jim Crow South.
Arthur, I mean, when you look back at history, see, it's very convenient to not teach you the true horrors of history, because if history is taught in its true raw form, it would be some people feeling real bad about what they come from, who they come from.
Yeah.
Now, the history that I've been researching and learning, I take more pride now in my ancestors. Our people that survived the Middle Pass, the strength that it would take to survive the Middle Pass. First of all, the people, imagine if you're taking people from somewhere, are you going to take people that are crippled to help you build? Or are you going to take strong people? Are you going to take people with knowledge, with skills? So that's who got taken.
Advocate, man. You just said we just took the strongest, the most skilled people. So then somebody on the other side, and I'm just saying other side, I don't want to think that I'm trying to divide here. Somebody might say, well, how did they get taken? They're the strongest, the brightest. Why? How did they get taken? How did they get brought over here? So what would you say to somebody that says they shouldn't have get caught? I mean, to the victor goes the spoils. I mean, if I overpower you, I just overpower you.
Yep. And so I would say our ancestors, unfortunately, were outmatched and outgunned. So it's easy. It's easy to take you if Arthur, if SWAT team bust up in this house, I'm outmatched and outgunned.
Yeah.
So fight as valiantly as I could. At the end of the day, you outmatched and outgunned, right? So I think that is a contributing factor into why folks that look like us were taken by force, because it was by force, right? And still, we had folks that fought back like against all odds. So I take pride in that. I know our ancestors had a spirit and a fight to them and in them, where Amistad is not just a made-up movie. That actually happened, right? I'll even say this, something to consider: the power of the collective. When you have people willing to resist and fight back, which has been our history, that's what needs to be taught, which we could be taking pride in. That's what I would want any young person that looks like me to know, that your legacy, your ancestors had a indomitable will, right? They really did.
Yeah.
But if I'm rulers, will I tell you that story to empower you? Will I tell you all of the resistance that I had to face, or will I tell you it was people that went along and that said, yeah, like, am I going to give you the keys to your liberation? Which I would say part of that is education. Am I going to give those keys to you? If I'm trying to control you, am I going to arm you with which is going to help you defeat me?
Yeah. Wow.
I would never do that, right? So if you look back through why things get left out of textbooks, why we didn't learn about when we was going in school, did they teach us about Malcolm X when we was in school?
We had this short, Black History Month. We could talk about one person, and that was often a person that somebody would do a project on, and same with others. Just your normal. We had, the big four, Booker T. Washington, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Mary McLeod Bethune, and George Washington Carver, the big five.
But see, even with those folks that you named, Malcolm X was never talked about in the same light that Martin Luther King was, and there were specific portions that Martin Luther King was talking about. It was the "I have a dream," it was the "let's hold hands" and "kumbaya," but they didn't really talk about how Dr. Martin Luther King said, "We're coming to Washington, D.C. to get our check." Martin Luther King was talking about reparations before he passed. He said that this country has undergirded every other class. The Homestead Act. Arthur, I'm in Kansas right now. The Homestead Act was giving free land to folks to move out west. West was settled because free land was given. Now, who was excluded to a large extent in that? Do we think that our ancestors, folks that look like us, got first dibs on this land, or some other people?
Some other. Corinthian, you are talking. You are saying a great point, and I think it's a couple of things that we have to mention for our viewers. The reason why I think reparations are so important, because the amount of wealth accumulated on the backs of the Black and brown community is how you're able to go into all these rich neighborhoods and see all these big houses that typically white people own. All this land, farmland, all like you said, the homestead, they were given to whites. But the thing is, a lot of black people till that land for free. The
Arthur,
plantations, all these plants. If we go to South Carolina right now, you will see a whole lot of plantations.
Arthur, down south, the cash crop of the United States for a large portion of years was cotton.
Yeah.
Who picked the cotton?
Yeah.
So that the cotton was getting picked by hand by some people.
Yeah. And they didn't get paid for it. See,
they didn't get paid for it.
Got paid for it. But they didn't even get paid for it. They just made their masters rich.
So Arthur, listen, Arthur. This is how valuable slaves were. Slaves were insured. So, Arthur, what do you insure in present day? Do we insure stuff that don't have value, or do we insure stuff that has value?
Value, yeah.
Slaves were insured. Slaves were the biggest commodity in America. Where if you go to Wall Street, a lot of that, and the insurance companies now benefited from. If they are still present today, you might can look back on their roots and see and trace some history on how all they did was just change the name. But some of their wealth, the money that they were accumulating, they benefited from slave trade.
Yes.
And the labors of slaves.
And Corinthian, we were talking about, so if they benefited from it, that means their generation, their line, their legacy benefits from it now.
Yeah. So
that's why somebody's trying. That's what we're talking about when we do mention reparation. The line. What would have happened if the slaves or the generation after them were given the money that they deserve, the 40 acres and a mule?
Arthur, I'll even take it a step back. It's not if they should pay. Now we're at the point of what's the amount, right? We're at the point now where it's cut the check. And when I say cut the check, there's the financial institution that owes, the education institution, the health institution owes, land institution owes. There's so many people that have benefited from the railroad system, for example.
Oh, yeah.
How did it get built? And the point I'm trying to make is there are some people that were brought over to work the rail yards that got paid some wages. There are some people that didn't.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to think, America built her wealth, became the richest, most powerful nation in the world because they had a 270-year head start where they didn't have to pay wages.
Yeah.
So Arthur, say if we started a business and we had 270 years of free labor from just 5 people, think about what we could amass if they are producing for us a commodity like cotton, which at that time, America was exporting cotton to the world.
Wow.
They were getting money from it. If you go down south, there was such thing as king cotton.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for people that say nice people said slavery is wrong, so they got to a point where we had to end it. No, that was not the case. There was a war.
It was a war.
And the reason why it was a war is because the people that had slaves knew how valuable they were.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they said they would rather die than give folks up.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
So when history is taught in that kind of light, because that gets brushed under the rug,
Yes, it does.
that gets the whole niceties of what there were nice people. No, it wasn't nice people.
Corinthian, let's even go further, because we're talking about things being swept under the rug.
Yeah.
In the South, the South did not want to give up their slaves. I hope everybody has to understand this. Now, I just want y'all to just humor me for a second, and then just look at the movie Life with Martin Lawrence and Eddie Murphy. Slaves, North won, South has to give up their slaves. But now you have the segregation and all the Jim Crow law. But Corinthian, just think about what they did and how mad they were that they couldn't keep their slave. Just think about the jail system now.
Arthur.
Think about all the people, all the black people that were put in jail in the South that probably didn't even do anything. But Corinthian, they still got them to work for free.
Arthur. So
oh my goodness.
So listen, Arthur. So you going right where I want to go. So one thing that I want folks, y'all don't have to just take our word for it. I want y'all to do y'all's own research. A great documentary on Netflix, 13th, is a great documentary to watch. So what Arthur is referring to now, there was such thing as convict leasing. Okay, so post-slavery, right? You saw a rise in crimes like vagrancy. So you could get in jail for vagrancy. What is vagrancy? Vagrancy is loitering, what people would say, passing through an area. Well, think about this, Arthur. You just freed people that you weren't paying for generations.
Correct.
So wouldn't you think they would be passing through areas without an established home or they have to build that?
Yeah.
But what those laws were, it was a clever way to imprison recently freed slaves and get them to work. Now it's under color of law.
Yeah. Yep.
There is in the 13th Amendment where it frees slaves, except for then it talks about if you break the law, if you're in prison, that stuff is still legal. So basically what I'm saying is under the color of law now, you've changed. So I look at laws in this country, where I think about who was helped and who was harmed by this law. Because I'm of the mind now, based on my research, that the legal system, the judicial system,
right,
it picks winners and losers. And I have a feeling on who founded this country and who the country was founded to help.
Yeah.
It's still that nothing has changed in my opinion.
Nothing has changed to the point, which brings us to present day. Look, and I just want you to, everybody has to understand how all this is connected. And this is the problem that I have for our neighbors. And I'm talking about people that weren't oppressed at some point in time. If you want to tell me about you are Polish and you immigrated to this country because you were getting away from the Holocaust, I understand what you're saying. But the thing is, if you're Polish, you're still white. You have to understand that. So there are people, and I just watched a documentary about World War II and Matthew, I can't think of the judge's name right now. I'll get it out and I'll say it. He talks about where he was taking the train and he had a stop. He was stopping at a restaurant to get something to eat. He was very hungry. He was traveling. He just come back from war. And he said that he could not eat in the diner.
Mm-hmm.
He had to be served out back. right?
Mm-hmm.
But he looked into the restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
and they were serving the POWs, the prisoners of war, who were Italians, in the restaurant. Now, they're prisoners of war. He is actually a veteran of the United States military, and he could not even eat in the restaurant. And they were serving the POWs. And they were Italian. They were white, right?
Yeah.
So this is the level that I don't think that a lot of people don't understand. When people talk about like reparate, like it really means that we're not just saying give us money just to be giving us money. We are not trying to suppress anybody and take your money. It is money owed to generations of families that did not get paid for their work. We are the sons, grandsons, great-grandsons, great-great-grandsons of slaves.
So Arthur, as I've gotten older, I'm more skeptical with politics, politicians. I understand the purpose, but so I saw that the House of Representatives had 3 survivors of the Tulsa race riots, from Black Wall Street. One person was 109, 103, in the either late 90s or in the hundreds. Survivors of Tulsa. And for those unfamiliar, Tulsa, the Greenwood district, at its time, it was called Black Wall Street. A generation or two post-slavery, a community, an all-Black community, was able to circulate the dollar in their community to the point where they had their own grocery stores, movie theaters, airports, businesses, all Black. Now, this is before integration, all right? So they didn't have any other option to go to. This is in the 20s, right? Now, that area was destroyed, burned to the ground. There are accounts that say there were bombs dropped on that community where it was leveled. And you had survivors that were in front of Congress sharing their testimony some 90 years later. And when I think about reparations or paying what you owe, Arthur, if a natural disaster comes through a surrounding area, will they let 100 years go by before that area is rebuilt?
Wow.
Right. Now, what makes it even more egregious, these folks had insurance on their places. They went to the bank. They had money in banks. They couldn't get their banknotes redeemed because they burned up. They got burned up because their homes were leveled. Folks were killed in the street. So it's folks that survived there that the area was not built back or restored into the way it was. To me, that is a huge problem, because we know that even 20 years later, if a tornado went through a town, that town is going to get rebuilt.
Yeah.
So why wasn't Tulsa rebuilt? That's my question.
It's an American city, and it wasn't rebuilt.
It's an American city that wasn't rebuilt. So my question is, why? And then, so they were talking to Congress. After the folks shared, the Congress stood up and gave them a standing ovation. And it made me angry because I don't need any applause.
Pause.
Where is the money to rebuild that place today? So they've waited 90 years. Well, you don't have to wait 90 more seconds. We're going to rebuild. There's some money that's owed you, your family, future generations, the opportunity cost of not being there, being displaced.
Yeah, if you're able to tell us how much John Jacob Astor was worth back then and how it's inflated and give us his amount, you can find
You can do that. Then find out for them.
You can find out how much to give.
Cut that check now. Look, Arthur, I know checks can be cut because they did it for COVID.
Yeah.
Don't tell me it takes a lot of somehow them checks because mine came right to my bank account.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, even if you start there, I'll say start at that. Make them restore them, make them whole.
Yeah,
That's what justice is.
Yeah.
Otherwise, those words are hollow to me. See, justice is, or why you go to the legal system, you go to the legal system to make yourself whole. You were wronged in some kind of way, and you seek legal remedies to make you whole.
Yep.
There's a lot of people that have not been made whole, right? Reparations for me is not a scholarship. It is direct cash payments, right? Because Arthur, if you need what's better to get, a business loan or a scholarship? What is harder to get, a business loan or a scholarship?
Right now, it's harder to get a scholarship or business loan.
I would say you have to go through more hurdles to get a business loan.
Yeah, okay.
Right? Because that's cash, right? Now, is it easier for you to get a student loan? Like it's much easier for you to get a student loan than a business
comparison, yes.
And the point I'm trying to make is after you give the student loan, for example, right? You still have to find a job, hopefully that pays you enough to start paying back on that loan, right? There's no guarantee that you will get this job. So when folks say we'll give folks scholarships and stuff like that, that's not, I want direct cash now, because that means I don't have to wait 2 years, 3 years, get some kind of skill, and then potentially maybe see the benefit of it. No, give me the cash right up front.
Correct. Now, the country went through the same years of the Tulsa Black
race riot.
Happened as well, and they were able to give all them folks. People got money back that was lost in the bank. It can be done when you want to do it.
Arthur,
you make time for what you want to make time for, and you do what you want to do. And if it hasn't been done, it's because they really don't want to do it. Arthur,
listen, I'll give you an example of when you don't want to do something, when you do want to do something. And I want y'all to look this up and tell me if I'm lying. I've read accounts where slave owners after the Civil War, because their slaves were insured, got paid out because their slaves were freed or lost in the war. So money was given to slave owners and not the slaves. Can you imagine that? Right? The system was set up in a way that the slave owners got some benefit because their quote unquote property was lost. Right?
Wow.
But the actual human beings were not given anything. That's a backwards. That's a system That's a system that can't stand, man.
No,
And,
no,
and
it's so egregious, man. And if you just tuned in, we've been going on for pretty much an hour, and we were talking about reparations. Do you think that people, African Americans, descendants of slaves, obviously verifiable, some history was erased in a lot of areas, or lost or not recorded, but we have enough to start this process. So let's get it done now. Do you think that reparations are necessary? Comment. Send us a comment. If you don't feel like you can talk about this on the air, it's okay. It's our show. We'll talk about it. We cool. We good. But send us a message and let us know what you think. Do you think reparations or your family members should receive reparations? Kristen, it even goes to, and something that some people might understand is Levittown.
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 Mm-hmm.
And where they would not give or let Black people get a loan to get a house in that town, or explain Levittown, and that might even just show you some of the injustices that stem from all the stuff we talked about earlier.
So the Levitt towns, some people deem them as the start of suburbs, but basically they were homes that were built in community. A lot of homes, they were built post World War II, like the baby boom kind of generation where GIs came home, got GI bills, had resources, had money for school that some of our folks that look like us didn't get. Right. Even after fighting in the war, and another distinction I like to make, Black people have fought, bled, and died in every war in this country. Like when you talk about building a country, right? Blood, sweat, and tears, blood spilled on the earth, for freedom and justice and the American way. We're a part of that story. But how we were treated is not reflected on how other people who have served this country have been treated. So I have an issue with that. Now, going back to Levittowns, right? Communities built outside of the main city for folks to live in. Affordable rate where folks that worked could afford a home. The only barrier was a Black person couldn't be sold this home, and when you moved out, you couldn't sell it to a Black person. So when we think about from a financial standpoint, one key essential component to wealth generation is home ownership. So imagine if I have a home back in the 40s and 50s. In a lifetime, I can pay that home off. And now that's an asset that I can pass on to my family. I paid maybe $40,000 for it. Now it's worth $120,000. That's wealth that can be passed down to my kids and my kids' kids. Where say they want to sell it, they sell the home and can split it up, but they have a financial base now that they can start something with. That's what our ancestors in a lot of ways were cheated out of. When you have a policy where you can't sell those homes, even if I have the means to buy it, that's totally against free market capitalism, which we're supposed to be founded on those kind of principles. Yeah. So I take issue with people that make the blanket statement, let the free market decide and stuff like that. No. policy has been dictating who can settle in these areas. And I would say these policies have been constructed in a way to pick some winners and losers. Now, what I have been learning in history and seeing with my own two eyes, typically who's on the losing end on this is folks that look like us. And that's not right.
Right there. That even made me even think about even maybe the Great Migration from the South to the North, all the blacks, I obviously had the Civil War that left the South, to find a better life in the North. But now let's think about the apartments and ghettos. Like they had to leave, they left the South because obviously they was going, nothing good was going to come. They could not be driving on those back roads still and be fine. Now they moved to the North, which obviously is going to be better. But now, obviously, home ownership, what? No, you're going to be in an apartment. And
Arthur.
you don't own that. And
Arthur.
so all these people living in these confined places, Chicago and Michigan and New York,
See, Arthur, man. See, we've been taught just a slanted, warped view of history. We thought the North was just so much better than the South. There was racism in this country, North, South, East, and West. I'll give this point. Martin Luther King was going up to Chicago to have rallies around fair, affordable housing. If you think the North is so great, why would he have to go have a rally there in Chicago, which we thought was so welcoming and so much better than the South? Why would he have to go have a rally there?
Wow.
Right? So that means that the issues might have presented themselves differently, but there were issues in the North and the South.
Wow.
Right. Then I'll take it this way. All right. For those folks that are historians, so the Emancipation Proclamation, the 1860s, the Freedom Act, 13, 14, 15th Amendment, that's in the 1860s and 70s. If those things were true, that means that people are free, should be treated equal. If those things were true, right? And America is justice and freedom for all, okay? Why, close to 100 years later, is there a need for a civil rights movement? So you got to think about this. The law of the land, the Constitution, where people put so much stock into, it said that folks need to be treated equally, fairly, 13, 14, 15th Amendments. So what would there need to be a whole civil rights movement for if that stuff was enforced, or if people followed what we now supposed to be revering as the highest law of the land, and this is the document that's amazing, the Constitution, what people get so warm and fuzzy over.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the point I'm trying to make is those documents on paper and on practice are two totally different things. So it says a lot of great things on paper, but that has to be put into practice. And I would say in 2023, still those things espoused in those documents aren't put into practice every day. They're not.
Wow.
So,
Corinthian, you have given us a history lesson today. Hey, if you just tuned in, we're almost done. We've been talking about reparations and we just went on a little history. We just went on our mini passage, middle passage, if you could say. We talked about how everything is linked, and a lot of times a lot of people try to get from point A to point B. That's fine and all dandy, but how did you get there? That's the you got to talk about how you got there. You can't just say if I knock on your door, okay, I'm here at your house, but how did you get here? What route did you take? And we got to talk about the route. Yeah, go ahead, Craig.
So I want to bring this to present day.
Yeah.
Right. So we should be taking pride from our past.
Ooh,
right.
I like that.
And the way we can best do that is if we know, if you know what cloth you're cut from, you will walk differently. Right. So I've done my own research and I know how powerful our ancestors, the things they had to go through, the things that they endured, the pride that I take in their perseverance inspires me to go even further. So I said that to say history is so important. And this is something that we have to teach our younger generation. Like our younger generation should be taking so much pride in the black skin that they have because it means something. Like it means something, right? The legacy that has been built from our ancestors, what our ancestors were able to do. Like it used to be a time where it was illegal for us to read.
Yeah.
You were reading under penalty of death. And the reason why I want to make that distinction is because you know the power of an educated black person. It's like wildfire. That means if he knows, he's going to teach somebody else. And then now if I have two people that know, that's a threat to my whole system. That is why so many efforts were made to stifle our assembly. It used to be illegal in the state of Virginia for more than 4 blacks to assemble. And the reason why that is so important is because, you know, if you got 4 black people together, they're thinking about how to create the revolution, how to upset what's going on right now. That's why it was outlawed. That's why they couldn't congregate. That's why they had to congregate in secret. That's the power of us. Wow. When that is taught in proper context, then there should be pride that we take in now working together. Think about during that day, the power of just 4 of us getting together. Now in present day, when we have access to the technology that we have, when we got access to all the books that we want, now imagine if we get together and say, we're going to work on fixing this in our community. Do you know how powerful that would be for the young, for the young people that look like us to know we can work together and build even more? That's the messaging. That's why there's a concerted effort to stifle. That's why there's a concerted effort to pump, especially our young kids, with as many negative images, negative songs, negative lyrics to make them lose track or get distracted of their true purpose and their true power. See, that is why it is up to us to teach us.
Wow. Thank you. As we always say, brother minister. Listen, guys. You got an earful tonight, but I hope that you rewatch this episode in some capacity. If there is something that we said that you didn't know about, I encourage you to research it. The statement is true and the quote is true. History is best qualified to reward all research. So do your own research on these topics, and from white, black, brown, yellow. I encourage you to do research on your history, your own history. In your history, whatever race you are, whatever color, whatever creed you are, you're going to find something that you did not know. And I promise you, you will find something that could help somebody else. And that's the thing. And that's the key. If we want to be neighborly, like you say we are, then you would then probably join in a couple of different things and say, hey, maybe they do have a point. Or I didn't know that this happened. We shouldn't have let that happen. Or, in any form of race, creed, or whatever, you're going to find something. So I definitely encourage you to do your own research on your own history and also history of others as well.
Absolutely. That was a great way. There should be a healthy curiosity.
Yes.
There should be a healthy curiosity.
Out of history. History, it happened.
It happened. And now I've heard the statement that it's three sides to every story. It's your side, my side, and the truth. So you have to dig a lot of places to get the true history. You might just be looking at it from the winners.
Yeah.
Typically, the people that write the stories, like everyone is a hero in their own eyes.
Right. Like how he's talking.
Right. So when you were a hero in your own eyes, you just seeing my angle on why I did it, and I've justified it, and my kids take pride in it on why I did this.
Yeah.
But the other side is, man, you infringed on my whole right, but you justified it in some kind of way, right? So you have to do the search. You have to do the search. It should be a healthy curiosity to get as close as you can to the truth, right? Now, it's some. I would suggest there's some books now. There's some historians. There's some authors that I now have read it, and now it's become where I'm trying to consume as much information. I would definitely say Dr. Claude Anderson is phenomenal. His take on powernomics, excellent. But also some late great elders. Dr. John Henrik Clarke is someone that I read, like I'm talking about within the last 5 years. Phenomenal, like brilliant his take. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, the writer of the ISIS Papers, many are familiar with her. I listen to a lot of Dr. King's work, not just the I Have a Dream speech. He has a lot more.
Yeah.
that he shared. Malcolm X as well. I listen to a lot of different sources, and that helps me form my own opinion and conclusion. So, yeah.
Corinthian, I appreciate you, man. Wealth of knowledge, and like I said, if you have any comments or questions or something that you think that we should cover in our next episode or that we missed in this, definitely don't hesitate to send us a comment. Shoot me a text or shoot me a message on Facebook or Instagram. Also Corinthian as well, and we'll make sure we try to answer those questions or highlight something. Again, we want to shout out Amber Ivy, AI Meets AI. Make sure you get your copy. It's on Amazon. Good job, Amber. Great read and great summer read. So those summer reading lists that we used to get. You're an avid reader. I don't want to say avid reader, but I don't.
see, Arthur, what I have had to learn to do, like things that interest me, interesting facts. I like the concise, like where I can get the information. So I've started doing some audio books. I've started doing, where I can listen to it there. But it's so much information, and like the old adage says, knowledge is power, man. And imagine if we are developing, I'm talking about the next generation, if we build and equipping avid readers. They have now unlocked a whole new world of information to them.
Yes.
So they are steeped into technology. They know how to use technology now better than we do. But imagine if they also couple that with how to research and how to get books and how to do both. Imagine how far ahead they are than anyone else, right?
Right.
So,
Corinthian, I was just making sure. I think it's wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom, but in all thy getting, get an understanding.
absolutely. Amen to that. Yeah.
Hey guys, I want to thank y'all so much for kicking it with us tonight. As we talked about some deep we went deep sea diving tonight, and it's a deep discussion, but it's something that we have to talk about because it actually happened.
Yeah.
It's not made up, it's not a fable, it's not Aesop's fables, it's not a limber, it's not a haiku, it's not a William Shakespeare poem. It actually happened.
And look, this is the challenge I'll put to folks that might listen and might say, I don't agree with nothing that y'all said tonight. Please, I would love to see the evidence just back up what you're saying or why we shouldn't. I would love to read and delve into that.
Oh, man.
I like to hear both sides of the argument, both sides of them. So I welcome we welcome the feedback for the respectful dialogue. You know, we don't have to agree. We don't have to agree on everything, but I would say we have a right to disagree, but we don't have a right to be disrespectful.
Oh, speak on it. Hey, man, you talking tonight, man, Corinthian. Your rating's gonna go up tonight. Hey, we didn't get to talk about the Supreme Court decision, affirmative action, but it all ties in. See, we were pretty much, how lead the breadcrumbs.
Yep.
And it all ties in. So if you are in support of the decision, the Supreme Court, I think it was a 6-3 vote on affirmative action, and because of some cases that were brought up with Harvard and also I believe in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
One judge had to recuse herself from North Carolina case because she was on that board. But pretty much 6-3 vote on saying that they cannot allow race on a college application to be a determinant factor on if somebody gets in.
See, Arthur, now you were a admissions counselor,
right,
at a university, so you have a unique perspective. I did not agree with the decision at all because what they didn't repeal was legacy as a determining factor. I read some reports that a donor of an institution like Harvard or a legacy is 7 or 6 times more likely to get admission at that university than anyone else. So those factors, right, give them a leg up. So if you give some money to Harvard, or if you had some family that went to Harvard. Now, Arthur, higher education, HBCUs were created because our ancestors weren't allowed to go to places like Harvard, right? So we started whole institution of higher learning because we weren't allowed access there.
Yeah.
So when you think of legacy of going to Harvard, there's people that were unimpeded to get to Harvard, and then people that were. So repealing this, who does that help, and who does that hurt?
Oh, we could have talked about. Great, we could talk about it. Granted, and even when they did let us in, at Black and Brown in a lot of cases, and I'm just going to talk about the South because we've been talking about the South. They had to have armed escorts.
Arthur, they had security. They had security. Little Rock 9.
Ah.
So I saw someone post this on Facebook, and I thought it was great. It said affirmative action does not admit unqualified students. It makes sure qualified students are not wrongly denied. And I thought that was a perfect summation of affirmative action. It was not letting unqualified students into these folks were well qualified. They just weren't on the radar. Because if you got legacy students or donors that are 7 or 6 times more likely to get in, that's who's getting priority at these schools, right? And so I didn't agree with the decision, but I'll land my plane here. It's an opportunity to now think about the cost benefit of going to institutions of higher education.
Yes, I agree with that.
So I'll give you an example. If you have a full ride to attend an institution of higher learning, go. I'm not going to tell you don't go. School paid for.
Yeah.
Go. Learn as much as you can. Make as many connections as you can. Do that. If you do not, and you have to fund school either by loan or out of pocket or piece it together, you need to evaluate, do I want to spend school now at some institutions is $35,000 a year, Arthur.
Yeah.
And that's on the low end.
Yeah.
So do I want to make that investment, or if I'm undecided and don't know where I want to attend, do I want to consider, is there a local trade, community, college, vocational school I can go to? Because I can tell you the price tag is going to be different.
Yes.
And imagine if I can go to school for a year, pay out of pocket for that year and get a skill, then start earning, as opposed to, well, I started school, I'm 2 years in,
Right.
I got student loan debt, but I figured out it's not for me. That's an expensive lesson, right?
It's a lesson.
So you have some school. So I attended school for a couple of years. My bill reflects that. But outside of that, I don't have a piece of paper to show for it. As opposed to, you can do 2 years at a community college and 2 years have an associate's degree, a piece of paper, and then with those skills that you learn, be able to start in a position to start earning right away.
Right. Yeah, Corinth. So this is what I deal with on a daily, counseling students about the cost benefit analysis of going to school and where they're going, and we dive deep into why this school, how is it going to benefit you, and what is your plan to make it happen. So I'm in total agreement, but everything is just amazing that everything that we talked about leading up to this about affirmative action is all linked. And you have to understand that. So to all our neighbors out there, you have to understand that this is not by any happenstance, that this is happening and the way it's happening, and the court's decision. It's all linked into a bigger picture. And we're not just saying this to scare you or to say that there's a conspiracy or something like that. No, it's linked. It's linked for a reason. And how it's linked is something that you can find if you do your research. That's all we're saying. Hey guys, I thank y'all so much for tuning in tonight. Corinthian, man, I appreciate you, bro. Again, a wealth of knowledge, man. Pick his brain. I hope y'all send us some comments or some questions or something that y'all want us to talk about, because we're open book. And I was watching the Cosby episode when Claire was on the talk show with the three. three gentlemen, and it just reminded me of our podcast.
Man, don't pick my. I would say don't even pick my brain. If there's information or if there's angles that I need to get more knowledge on, I want that. I want the suggestions of, man, you need to study this a little bit more. Like, help me. I'm trying to learn and grow. Right. Be a lifelong learner.
Hey, man, Corinthian, we're gonna keep swinging, man.
Keep swinging as always. Yes, sir.
Matter of fact, I'm probably gonna go golf and at tomorrow at 6 a.m. No, I'm coming, Corinthian. I'm coming, man.
Yeah, I see you getting it in. You going pro-am?
Yeah, I'm going, Corinthian. I'm going for the gusto, man. I'm being serious. Nothing shall separate me from
Arthur, can you imagine if we was introduced to that game when we was your kids' age? Just imagine.
Yo, see, hey man, we gotta go.
We gotta go. Because we could spend some time on that.
Time on that. Hey guys, Lord willing, if He allows us to make it to next week, we plan to be back here on Thursday, that 8:30 time, Eastern Standard Time. So we thank you so much for kicking it with us tonight, kicking it with the Kellys. And y'all just have a blessed one. Corinthian, man. Appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Keep swinging.
Keep swinging, man. All right, everybody. Good night. You know, it's just some things you can't do no more. And some places you can't go no more. Some things you say you can't say anymore.
On Bourbon Street or not. But
Corinthian said this is oil. It's probably big. What is bigger than oil? This thing is diamonds. Like, it's like so massive.
Not gonna do this with y'all. Y'all not gonna. This is cyberbullying, right?